So, in life, there are moments when you stop and ask yourself, how did I get here? Like, why am I standing here? Well, this is definitely one of those moments for me, and I find myself going back to beginning, back to my roots. I was born to incredible parents, amazing parents who served as doctors in the Indian Army. I was the firstborn, and as far back as I can remember, I made my parents very proud and happy 99% of the time. Okay, slight exaggeration of personal achievements are allowed from time to time. Don't you think my brother was born a few years later, and even then nothing changed for me? We were both given equal opportunities, and I want to emphasize this. I want to really emphasize this for you because I don't think a lot of people might understand that being equal might seem very normal. But where I come from, India, and a lot of developing countries around the world, more often than not, this is an exception. It's actually a privilege. My first experience of the glaring disparity between boys and girls came at a very, very young age. I grew up in a middle-class family with extremely philanthropic parents who constantly reminded me that my brother how lucky we were and how giving back to those who were less fortunate was not a choice. It was a way of life. Simple. I was 7 or 8 years old when my parents started talking me on these visits in traveling clinic to developing communities around and villages around the city that we lived in, Baltimore. Really, we were packed into this ambulance and my parents were provided free medical care to people who couldn't afford it. My job at the age of 8 was assistant pharmacist. So, I would count all the medicines, put them in an envelope and give it out to patients, and I really took my job very seriously. But the more I went on these expeditions, the more I began to notice that simplest things that distinguished a boy from a girl or a man from a woman. For example, girls were pulled out of school when they hit puberty, because they were considered ready for marriage and babies. That's 12 and 13 while boys still enjoyed their childhood. Our basic human rights such as health care were denied just because they were women. Let's call this whole experience trigger number 1 for me. Last forward a few years and many triggers in between. Like a producer-director, for example, early on in my career, I must have been about 18 or 19 telling me that if I didn't agree to the ridiculous term or painfully low salary in his movie, that he would just replace me because girls are replaceable in the entertainment business. But I think what really moved the needle for me and ultimately led me to create the Foundation for Health and Education around the same time, partner with UNICEF, was an encounter with my housekeeper's daughter about 12 years ago. I came home from set early one day and she was sitting in my library reading a book, and she must have been 8 or 9 years old, and I knew she loved reading. So I asked her, I was like, it's weekday. Why aren't you in school? And she said, oh, I don't go to school anymore. So I went and asked her mother, and I said, why isn't she in school? And her mom said that her family couldn't afford to send her and her brothers to school, so they chose the boys. The reason she would eventually get married and it would be a waste of money. I was completely blown and it shook me to my core. Eventually, I decided to cover the cost of her education so that he could continue to learn because education is a basic human right. thanks and a huge necessity, especially today. From the point on, I was determined to make a difference in as many children's lives as I could in whatever big or small way that I could contribute. There's a really beautiful quote that I read recently, and I think it's absolutely appropriate to explain what I'm trying to say today. The hand that rocks the cradle, the procreator, the mother of tomorrow. A woman shapes the destiny of civilization, such as the tragic irony of fate that a beautiful creation such as a girl child is today one of the greatest concerns facing humanity. Girls have the power of change the world. It is a fact, and yet today girls are more likely than boys never to set foot in a classroom. Despite all the efforts and progress made over the last 2 decades, more than I am just gonna give you a stat, more than 15 million girls of primary school age will never learn how to read or write compared to 10 million boys primary school. It's the beginning of our future. Over the last 11 years, I have witnessed firsthand the incredible work that UNICEF does for children around the world, especially victims and survivors of child marriage, displacement, war, sexual violence. But there is still so much work to do, and for me that is the fuel to my fire. The reason I am so committed to this cause, and that is where my passion stems from, because I know that a girl's education not just empowers families but communities and economics a result of her education. We all do better. It's just as simple as that, as entertainers and influencers sitting in this room. I feel that is our social responsibility to be for the voiceless, which is why I applaud each and every woman in this room for being such a badass, for using your platform and your voice to contribute to change, and for ensuring that there is not even one lost generation as long as we are alive.
If you've reached this video, you probably do not believe it, but you are already taking a big step to improve your life. The fact of wanting to improve and progress while wanting to leave the past behind, and above all, knowing how to do it, is already a great change that you are producing from here to the future. It is so important to leave behind the things that do not serve us in our lives, in order to obtain what will do us good from now on. You don't drown by falling into the sea, but by not getting out of it. Perhaps is one of the most important lessons of recent times, for the reason that bad things happen to everyone. It would be a great luck if we all always have the same constant mental well-being, and that bad things did not happen to us. But the reality is quite the opposite. In this life, which is long, we will have good and bad times. So don't feel bad about yourself, because feeling bad shows humanity, and it also shows maturity to overcome those bad experiences and move on. Time is a great cure for all the bad ones, and you will know it well, because you will remember at this moment situations that you have experienced in your life, and that, although it is unbearable, sooner or later you have forgotten it, or the pain is diminished to the point where you can use the memory to reflect. A death, breakup, that person you loved so much has left you for no reason. All those moments of incredible pain, of not being able to sleep at night that torment us even during the day, somehow vanish thanks to the passage of time and the love that God has for us. Because thanks to Him, it is that our sorrows become more bearable, because no one knows more than He how much we are suffering and how we struggle along the way. He wants the opposite. He wants us to always be happy, and that's why He works in our favor. But not only time works to overcome moments of pain. Also, the changes you make in your life drastically change the difference for the better. If you do what you have always done, you will get what you have always got. Go for a walk, dance, show the world that you are alive, and show yourself in the way you know best. Do what you like the most, and always put a smile on any situation, because the durability of the sufferings will depend on how you react to them, and then reflect. Have I caused this that has happened to me? Am I to blame? Generally, being blinded by a situation, we think that everything is our fault, and that we should martyr ourselves and show the others that we are sorry. But no. Sometimes there are situations that just happen, and the fault may not be to someone in particular. Instead, there are things that should happen inevitably. That is why you should not feel bad about everything. I do not promise you that everything will be fine from now on, nor do I promise you that nothing bad will ever happen to you again, since that would be living in an idyllic world, and that would be something that does not make complete sense at all. There will be moments of weakness in which you will do nothing but cry and pray to God that this whole moment passes. But what you must do is dry your tears and fight with all your might so that everything is resolved and stability returns in your life. From now on, we have to be clearer that I must do this, that I would like to do this. Believe it or not, even if you feel incapable, we can all be responsible for a great change. We have to be the engine to create new directions and new experiences. Do you feel empty? Do you feel that all your days are the same endless routine? Take control of your life and be the first to generate that great change that you need so much, because no one will do it for you. So use that fact and create the life you want for yourself. You know well that you have the intelligence, the strength, and the capacity to live better and be happier. Allow it for yourself. This life is beautiful, and it's no use just concentrating on negative things, because in addition to being beautiful, our life is short. That's why we shouldn't waste a second and go out to fight for our dreams. Do not give up.
The people who became the most successful in our society are people who broke the rules. You know, there was no presidents for 24-hour news cycles until Ted Turner did it. There's so many people who got out of the box. Look at Apple and the birth of the whole notion of Apple, or Nike, I talk about in the book, and the birthing of that corporation, how they did something with the tennis shoe that had never been done before. If you only base your decisions on empirical data, you can only repeat what somebody else already did. If you follow your instincts and your own God-given creativity, we can go where we have not been before. Be strong and very courageous. Be strong and very courageous. Be strong and be of good courage. Be strong and possess the land. Because God knows that for what you're going to do, it is not by outer strength. You understand? You understand. See, help me preach this thing this morning, girl. It's inner strength. So my fourth point is you got to have inner strength for this fight. It's not your outer strength. It's not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. So you got to have that gut strength, that belly strength, that devil-defying come hell or high water strength, that roll me out in front of them and I'll preach from a chair strength, that tenacity to take a licking and keep on ticking, that inner strength that when I can't do as I would, I'm going to do as I can, but I'm not going to stop doing. To the best of my ability, I'm going to stretch and go. Hallelujah! Be strong! Strong, 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 strong. I am afraid that too many times we have put so much focus on teaching you to be good seed that we haven't taught you the power of good soil. And so when we come to soil issues, the seed ignores the soil. We flick the channel. That has nothing to do with me. We close our eyes because we have been taught to be good seed, but we have not been taught to pay attention to soil. And yet the Bible is clear. Jesus says the sower went forth sowing seed. And some fell by the wayside. Some fell amongst rocks, some fell amongst thorns. The whole text is about environment. Look at you and look at your environment. Have you been positioned to flourish? Positioning has a lot to do with flourishing. To be in an environment, in a family that supports you. My sister and I were talking the other day. I was telling her what an amazing person she is, that all of our lives together and all the things that God did in my life, not once in all of the years that I've known her, and she was there when Mama had me, have I ever known her to be jealous of me. Not once, not ever. She has always been my cheerleader and my greatest fan. And she said, how could I be jealous of you? You're my brother. I said, a lot of people have siblings that hate them, that are jealous of them, that hope they choke. And some of my development has to be that God planted me in an environment of people that supported me. My brother, my sister, my mother, my father, they all supported me. You can have good seed, but if you've been in bad soil, people who hated you, environments that denied you, education that underserved you, communities that limited you, mentalities that poisoned you. Oh, do you hear what I'm saying? If your soil wasn't right, it doesn't mean that you're not right, but if your soil wasn't right, it's going to affect how you root and how you grow. And you might grow a little bit. The Bible says you can grow for a while, but then the thorns will choke you out, or the rocks will not have enough soil for your roots to grow. Are you blaming God for something you ought to be blaming the soil for?
Several years ago, when I was a director, I was hired under a change mandate. I remember showing up as this new whippersnapper full of ideas that I was going to change and transform the culture in one quick fell swoop. Showing up to that meeting with my agenda and my operations and my ideas, oh, what a train wreck and a colossal debacle that was. I had feedback from this area, I had pushback from this area, I had concerns and questions raised from this person. I interpreted all of that as an indictment about my leadership. And in fact, it wasn't. It was quite the opposite. I remember distinctly feeling like I was sitting on the bottom of a hill, and all of this feedback was like a giant snowball on the top of that hill that would just kept picking up momentum, and it would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And there I was at the bottom of the hill trying to hold it back, and boom, ran over. I went to my mentor to ask for some advice. And he said to me, Ivan, never go to a meeting with an idea that you already don't know the outcome of. In fact, he said, go slow to go fast. I remember hearing that. Go slow to go fast. What he meant by taking the time to find out the people who are most invested in what you're trying to share, who have the most to gain or lose, or whose jobs may be impacted the most, and being intentional and deliberate in hearing their feedback. Take moments to address their concerns, not as a part of an exercise that you're reading a book, but out of caring and really wanting to do what's best for the organization. When you finish that process with that individual, take the time now to go to the next person and repeat this process over and over again. When you approach it with this real intentional meaning and caring to find the best possible solution, then you have everybody on your bus. Then when you come back together and you bring the group together, and people can hear their thoughts and their ideas and their feedback expressed in your new process, they are more willing to follow. They are more inspired. They are more invested in creating sustainable and lasting change. If you can go slow to go fast, if you can take the time to do this work beforehand, you will drive a successful change mandate.
You are the sum total of all of the choices that you've made up until now. And anything about yourself or your life that you don't like or isn't working or isn't mobilizing you is to be looked at in terms of, can I grow? Rather than, why did I do it, or isn't this wrong? See, the two ways to motivate yourself are deficiency motivation, which says, where I am I don't like. I don't like what I've done. I don't like the fact that I can't do this well or I can't do that well. So I will list these things in my own repertoire, and then I will be constantly trying to repair those deficiencies, always assuming that I'm deficient, that there's something wrong with me, and I'm trying to fix it. And when you do that, you spend your whole life doing that. And you never arrive, because your life becomes a series of trying to get someplace else. And it is, if you follow that, if you live that, if you behave that, then what happens to you is you become a person who will always suffer from this disease called more. You always have to have more. Because whenever you are getting where you want to go, let's say you want $100,000 in the bank, and you work, and you struggle, and you deny yourself, and you do all of those things, and you finally you get there, and here you are, you got $100,000 in the bank. All of this stuff over here is, of course, your life, and that is all you know. That's what you know how to, that's how you are. That is your being. That is your way of being. So that when you do get here, what you will do is say, this is not enough. A no-limit person is never operating from deficiency or from lack in their life. They're never saying, I don't have enough. You see, you're never going to get enough. You already are everything. You're everything that you need. Think of it for just a moment. Everything that you need to have total bliss, perfection of your life, you already are. You already have it. You came into this world with nothing. That's how you're going out. And the time that you have here, what you have is your uniqueness, your specialness, and you don't need anything else. Now think on this. If you don't know how to appreciate what you have and where you are in your life, you don't need anything else. Because if you do get something else, you won't know how to appreciate that either. You'll just want more. Or you'll want it to be different. Or you'll want it to be the way it used to be. Or you'll want someone else to be the way you think they should be. Successful people or no-limit people or self-actualizing people or inner-directed people, whatever labels that have been put on them by great thinkers and philosophers and therapists and people that have looked at human beings, these kinds of people are people who always have enough. There are some people, if you invite them over and you say, I'd like you to come over tonight, and I'd like you to stay over if you can, instead of having to drive back. And they'll say, well, can you stay? And I say, well, I don't know if I can stay or not. Well, you could sleep on the cot. Oh, no, I could never sleep on the cot. I can't sleep on cots. I got a sciatica. Don't you know that I have back pain and cots? No, that's out of the question. I couldn't sleep on a cot. And what about breakfast? Well, we don't have any food, but we have some old grapefruit that are in the refrigerator. They have a few spots on them. Oh, no, I could never eat grapefruit. Spots? No, thanks. I can't eat grapefruit spots. I just couldn't do that, And these are people who never have enough. They are not able to be flexible and to change.
All of you have extraordinary capabilities. All of you. You have to decide if you are willing to do the things to put you in that category. Rich people don't sleep 8 hours a day. That's a third of your life. It ain't but 24 hours in a day. You cannot be sleep 8 hours a day. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable if you ever want to be successful.
What you should do if you want to start waking up early is start waking up early. You figure out what that time is for you, and then you start waking up at that time. Now, if you wake up and it's earlier than you normally wake up, by the end of the day, guess what? You'll be a little bit more tired. And then you can go to bed a little bit earlier. Impose discipline on your life. That's the way it works. Get out of bed, go get some. You got 24 hours in a day. The earlier you get up, the more you can take advantage of those hours. The reason I wake up at 4:30 in the morning is no one else is awake yet. So that gives me the opportunity to do things that I need to get done kind of selfishly for myself. And the big one in that category is working out. And it doesn't feel good at 4:30 when you get up, but by the time 7 o'clock rolls around and you've already worked out and you've already got some work done and you've got some time to say goodbye to your kids before they go to school, it's infinitely better than sleeping in until 6:45 and you get out of bed and now you missed your kids going to school or whatever. You're not prepared for the day. It's awful.
Whatever amount of sleep you need, you know how much you need. So you go to bed early enough so that you come awake naturally.
Wake up at the same time every day. And if you pick that time and you start waking up at the same time every day, that's very good for you. It doesn't have to be 4:30. It could be 6:30. It could be 7. I don't know what your personal schedule is, but find out a time, pick it, set it, stick to it, and maintain that schedule, and that's going to end up better for you. I recommend it's earlier. I recommend that you go to bed earlier. Because what are you doing at night most of the time? Most of the time at night, you're not working on anything super productive. You're just winding down and watching stupid YouTube videos or surfing the internet, reading clickbait stories, right? Don't do that. Instead, go to sleep and then wake up early.
No one's coming to push you. No one's coming to tell you to turn the TV off. No one's coming to tell you to get out the door and exercise. The bottom line is, no one's coming. When you become 18, when you move out of the house, when you're an adult, you have to parent yourself. Unless you understand that you've got to parent yourself, you've got to push yourself, you're not going to make your dreams come true.
Take yourself out your comfort zone. Do not live in your bubble. Put some more air in your bubble. If you stay in your comfort zone, that's where you will fail. You will fail in your comfort zone. Success is not a comfortable procedure. It is a very uncomfortable thing to attempt. So you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable if you ever want to be successful.
If you don't have any discipline, you'll end up with absolutely no freedom. You'll end up being a slave to other people that boss you around. There's all kinds of problems that can occur if you don't have discipline in your life. And the more discipline you have, the more freedom you're going to have.
The Bible says, he who loves to sleep and the folding of hands, poverty will set upon you like a thief in the night. He who loves to sleep and the folding of hands, poverty will set upon you like a thief in the night.
Make a plan. Look at what you're interested in. Get disciplined about something. Allow for the possibility that you have something important to contribute to the world, and that the world would be a lesser place without that contribution. Don't be afraid of taking on responsibility. It's where you find what sustains you in your life. You can take on too much responsibility. You have to be cautious in that regard, but that's a less common problem than not taking on enough.
Now, when it does come to planning, I think the most important part of a plan, the thing that makes a plan the most effective, is its flexibility. When you do the actual operation and you come up against unexpected things, which are absolutely going to happen, you have the flexibility, you have options, you have contingency plans to deal with.
You got to have a plan. Everybody's got a dream. Everybody's got a goal. What's the plan? And your plan has got to have something I call the C5 complex. Your plan has got to be clear, concise, compelling, consistent, and committed. You've got to have a plan. And when you're trying to do something that you're truly passionate about, there is no plan B.
A lot of the things that people regard as traps are actually the means to their life. You know, often young people are afraid of commitment, for example, in the context of a romantic relationship, and because they feel that that's going to interfere with their pursuit of something more valuable. But that's just not the case. You're not going to find something more valuable in your life than a committed relationship with someone that you love, that sustains itself across time, and that in all likelihood produces children. That's life. So don't be afraid of that, or be afraid of it, but don't let that stop you from pursuing it.
When you see transition really start to happen, when you really want to transition to something, master it. There's no limits. You know, don't let the world ever put limits on you. You can do anything you want to do, but make sure if you have a vision, make sure the vision is written. You know, make sure you have something to actually chase and not just hoping and wishing and all these different things. So put your plan together and then work the plan. Don't work somebody else's plan, right? That's one thing about the league. I love the league, but the league is somebody else's brand, right? You have to create your own brand yourself.
Come up with a good plan. Don't come up with a perfect plan that takes you 2 weeks to come up with. That's not going to help. Pat said a good plan, violently executed now, is better than a perfect plan executed next week. Pay attention. Watch how it's unfolding. Don't put the blinders on, and you've got your plan, now we're going to go and we're not going to look around anymore. We're just going to follow the plan. No. You have to be observant. You have to observe when you decide to act. The whole time. You can't just come up with a plan and stay on that track, because when you come up with a fast plan, you're not going to have thought about every single detail.
Your future is in your hands. You know what that means? You got to work on your mind. Fortify yourself. You know what that means? You got to upgrade, level up your skill set. You know what that means? That means you want to be in a community of collaborative, achievement-driven, supported relationships that's going in your direction. You're supposed to evolve, not be the same way. We've been trained to be who we were not to be. And as a result, most of us are living a misplaced life. A lot of people have made the decision to give up. A lot of people have made the decision to wait for a stimulus check. They don't require much stipulation. A lot of people have made the decision that I can't make it. A lot of people have made the decision that this is too painful, this is too much. No. A lot of people have thrown in the towel. It's a new day. And it's a new day, it's got to be a new you. You got to be willing to transform yourself.
So, be flexible, but stick to the plan, but be ready to adjust, but stick to the plan. And that's totally contradictory, and I know that, and I apologize, but that is what leadership is. Leadership is balancing those dichotomies.
I've told people to learn to use a schedule. And people often hate schedules because they act as their own tyrants, right? They say, well, you have to do this unpleasant thing, and then here's another unpleasant thing you have to do. And you do that for about 3 days, and you think, to hell with this, I'm not doing that, and you fall off the wagon. That isn't what you're supposed to do with a schedule. You're supposed to use it to design the days that you would like to have if you were taking care of yourself. And so you got to treat yourself like a good boss would treat a valued employee, and not like a tyrant would treat a slave, because the slave will rebel. And people say, well, I don't follow through on my plans. It's like, well, A, they're probably not very well formulated, and maybe you're doing them because of an external moral obligation, something not really your plans, right? And B, you're acting like a tyrant and a slave, and that's a bad relationship to have with yourself.
You've accepted that where you are is where you're going to be. You've already lost. And there's no power in that. There's no power in that. That's like staying right here. You're not popping the clutch. You're not going forward. You made a choice to just stay here. And that's your responsibility. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying there are challenges, problems, obstacles, issues, fears. But when you quit right here, you're right. This is where you're going to be.
Growth is not an automatic process. If you're going to grow, you're going to have to do so intentionally. And highly successful people, they continually have a thirst for knowledge. They continually ask questions. The secret of your success is determined by your daily agenda. The secret of my success is determined by what I do today. I believe that so much that a few years ago I wrote a book called Today Matters. Basically in that book I talk about the fact that we over-exaggerate yesterday, we overestimate tomorrow, and we underestimate today.
If you do not have it written down, your chances of it happening is reduced drastically, because it's a principle of success. Write the vision and make it plain, so that he who reads it will run to it. And even though it tarry, wait for it, for surely it will come at an appointed time. See, my first vision board I wrote when I was 10. I didn't know it was a vision board. The lady asked me what I want to be when I grow up. I wrote I want to be on TV. I wrote it at 10. I kept that paper till I was 27. I read it. I flunked out of school. I'm on my third marriage. I lost everything twice. I've been living in a car for 3 years. But I kept reading my paper. Guess what? I'm TV star. I'm on TV. This is how this works. Now, I wrote it at 10, but surely it will come at an appointed time. I did not get on TV till I was 38.
We've got to be more determined and stronger and be willing to do whatever it takes to live our dreams and create a future for our children. You got to be stronger than the forces working against you. Can't take any breaks. No, absolutely not. This is a new way of being. This is different. And the secret is to maintain commitment through all the frustrations, through all the disappointments, through all the setbacks that we will experience, and working to bring about change. That's how change comes about. People. You're not a witness. You're a participant. You want to be actively engaged in life. Harvey's man was right. We should be ashamed to die until we've made some major contribution to humankind with our voice, with our story, with our energy, with our efforts, with our intelligence, with our abilities, with our dreams.
Write everything you want on a piece of paper. Everything. I don't care. Use your wildest imagination. If you can think it, you can achieve it. Write it on a piece of paper. Read it every morning and every night. Come back here 1 year from today and see how much of that stuff then came true. That's all successful people have. If it's not written, you reduce your chances greatly of it ever occurring.
Sometimes it is their type. That draws the greatness out of you. You don't even know you're great till the lion roars, till all hell breaks loose, until everybody faints and you decide something's got to be done. Sometimes it is the trouble you avoid that God is using to draw the greatness out of your life. I want you to understand that the predicament that you are in right now does not define your destiny. They're going to believe when you do. They're going to love you when you do. They're going to value you when you do. I'm better than I used to be. I'm smarter than I used to be. I'm wiser than I used to be. I'm brighter than I've ever been. But I haven't mastered it yet. I'm still working on it even right now. Every now and then I relapse and go back to thinking like I used to think or feeling like I used to feel. He's not finished. They won't accept me. They won't love me. They won't accept me. They can't use me. They'll never embrace me. You'll never get anybody to embrace you till you embrace yourself. You'll never get anybody to believe in you till you believe in yourself. You'll never get anybody to love you till you love yourself. Your they might be you in disguise.
The first key to doing better is find out. To change your life, really, you need ideas. There isn't anything an idea can't change.
You can do more than you think you can do. You can have more than you think you can have. The problem is not coming from what they believe, it's coming from what you believe. Oh God, I'm talking to somebody. Stop blaming people for the years you wasted.
It can be the day that turns your life around. All you need is a reason that turns you on. Today, my life changes. Now, who can do that? Anybody. When can you do it? Whatever day you pick.
You can't do anything without faith. It's impossible to accomplish anything without faith. So I need you to believe there is still time. As long as there's breath in your nostrils, as long as you can wake up in the morning.
The first step before anybody else in the world believes it is you have to believe it.
So I need you to believe.
Because if you're willing to go through all the battling you got to go through to get to where you want to get, who's got the right to stop you? I mean, maybe some of you guys got something you never finished, something you really want to do, something you never said to someone, something. And you're told no, even after you pay your dues. Who's got the right to tell you that? Who? Nobody. It's your right to listen to your gut. It ain't nobody's right to say no after you earn the right to be where you want to be and do what you want to do.
You got to do what you was called to do. You got to do what you were born to do. You got to do what works for you, because if you do what works for you, you're going to blow up. It's in your DNA. It's who you are. You are a warrior. It's time for you not to back up, not to give up, not to give in.
Even you get knocked down, you get back up, you get back up, you get back up, and you continue to throw shit against the wall.
Listen to me very carefully. You are a warrior, and it's time for you to fight. I know you have that warrior inside, and now I just need you to activate it.
Keep going. As dark as it gets, keep going. As difficult as it gets, as much as it seems as if the world is crumbling down around you and there's no way out, keep going. See, most people stop. They don't get it. They quit. They quit reaching for their dreams. I notice that there are those who are squashers of dreams. Now, I don't know why these people do this. I don't know why the naysayers or squashers do this. Grow stronger and then inspire others to become the strongest version of themselves. That's how we evolve. I go beyond the fears and limitations of other people. I control my life. No matter what road you take in life, there are always going to be things you have to do that you just don't want to do. Go and do the thing. Look, you only get this life once. Every experience that we have leads us to who we are, where we stand, and that's always the right place to be. If you can't, you must. If there's something that you can't do because there's an obstacle in your way, that means it's your responsibility to do that thing so that you can destroy the obstacle. Failure is necessary. Failure is success, and success is failure. We need each other. The more failures you have, the more successes you'll have. The darker the night, the brighter the day. The harder the ball hits the ground, the higher it goes up. Pain is a beautiful thing. Challenge is what life is about. A life without challenge, a life without pain, is a life without growth. So not only do I embrace the challenge, embrace the pain, but I even look forward to it. Send me a challenge. Please, give me some challenges here, because I need to be tested. I need to be stronger. I need to grow. You know, they say there's a judgment day. I believe we face multiple judgment days while we're walking on earth. The judgment day is today. Judgment day is now. And the judgment is going to allow you to live a life of hell now, or to choose your own kingdom.
Are you satisfied with what you have produced? Is this what you want? Would you like for things to be better than this? Do you believe that you deserve better than this? Or are you content? This is it. You don't have to do anything else. That you'll already resign yourself in life and say, well, I'm happy. I'm not starving like the people in Calcutta. Are you allowing yourself to get off the hook like that? Or do you believe somewhere in the back of your mind or in your heart that there is some other great work for you to do? There's something else that life has for you. And that's why you're here. How do we handle this fear factor? How do we increase our self-esteem? You have to begin to fortify yourself. How do we do that? I believe that you have to begin to consciously monitor your inner conversation and start talking to yourself. Start building yourself up. Sometimes the only good things you will hear about you are the things that you say to you. So I'm saying learn to be your own booster. Start building yourself up. Start encouraging yourself. Start saying, I can do this. I can make this happen. It's a natural inclination for us to put ourselves down. See, we are born negative, I think, in a negative consciousness because we live in a negative world. So I'm saying that we have to work through the challenges of life in learning how to begin to work to fortify ourselves. Begin to guard your mind against negative programming, like turn off the television. So you've got to guard the kinds of things that you put in your mind. See, if you don't program your mind will be programmed because human beings are goal-oriented. That's why we die of broken hearts early. That's why we're running through life to early grave. Most of us go through life running scared. So we created this in our minds, false evidence appearing real. We made it real in our minds. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. That's the destructive monster. So turn off things that can contribute to your fear. Turn a deaf ear to people that all they can do is talk about how negative things are because they have bought into the consciousness of the world. Listen to things that can empower you, that can enable you to create a new reality for yourself, in a new life for yourself. What idea are you sitting on? Write your ideas down. And then, once you get that idea, take the leap. See, a lot of people get the ideas and just walk around with them. Take the leap. See, it's out here in the universe. If you don't take the plunge, I guarantee you, somebody else will. Take the plunge. Go into action. And ladies and gentlemen, you will be surprised at how things will come together. You'll be surprised. Now, you're going to have some difficult challenges. I can tell you that now. Be aware of that. Things are not going to work out exactly right. For a time they will, sometimes. And that's when life is just playing a game with you. But ladies and gentlemen, go into action with your dream. And don't avoid where the fights are. Get in the midst of the fight. And get some hickeys on your head. Get knocked down so you can learn how to fight, so you can hold your position. See, most people don't get out in the arena of life because they don't want to fight. Most people don't get out there because they don't want to get knocked down. They don't want to be dropped to their knees. But see, you're going to be dropped whether you're on the field or whether or not you're sitting on the sidelines. You're going to be dropped. So at least get dropped for something. Don't get knocked down while you're sitting down. See, that's how most people are spectators in life. You don't want to be a spectator. You want to get out in the field where the action is. And you will be amazed. After the struggle, there will be a calm period and things will begin to click for you. Come out here with what you got. You don't have enough money? Don't worry about it. You got the dream. You got the idea. You don't have enough resources? Don't worry about it. You need some help? Don't worry about it. You get out here in the arena, someone will look at you and become inspired and say, hey, can I help you? But if you're sitting up on the bleachers, nobody's going to ask you anything.